Hi, welcome to Magic Hour. Great. So I've got Facebook Live and Instagram Live going on here. So welcome to Magic Hour. I'm Dana Balicki. I'm a transformational coach and I live in Joshua Tree just for the past couple of years. You are in my office in my new house, which currently has no ceiling, but a beautiful color-coded bookshelf that I'm very proud of. So this is Magic Hour number 4. So every week I host a little live coaching here, and in terms of technical difficulties, we've had our moments. So let's cross our fingers for my Wi-Fi bandwidth today. We're a couple days out of Mercury retrograde, so I'm hoping we're gonna stay strong here. So every week, every Friday, 11 a.m. Pacific time, I host a live coaching, right? Where we can get together, you can join me, you can ask questions, we can talk about how to be more alive, how to be more vital. That is my focus for today, but it's really my focus with every email I send, with all the work that I do, is how to be more alive, how to be more vital, how to be more engaged. And I'm going to go into a really specific, I don't know if I call it a tool, but a really specific way, a path that you can take that is super easy, that is available to you at any moment of the day, of any day, no matter where you are, what time it is, to help you do just that, to help you be more vital, to be more engaged, to be more alive, connected, and creative, right? The times call for this, right? Obamacare replacement that basically just made being a woman a pre-existing condition. The next phase of Dakota Access Pipeline is being planned, though there is hope in Nebraska. And then the many, many, many other things that are happening in the world around us. The times require us to not just move through our lives like drones, like automatons, like moving just from one meeting or phone call or like calendar slot to the next, right? I mean, we have to bring our best, and that doesn't just mean bringing our best. What I learned as an activist and organizer for many years, that doesn't just mean like throwing yourself on the pyre of engagement and activism. Even if you're not, even if like you're a little bit like, oh, Dana, what are you talking about right now? I'm just trying to like move through my life in a more focused, clear way, which is fine. But the world is happening around us. We are living in it, right? We don't want to be like, we don't want to pull the like wool over our eyes or put our head in the sand or whatever the sayings are. We have a responsibility being alive, right? And being, for those of us who are able-bodied, for those of us who, are compassionate, which is probably most of us here, I could imagine. We have a responsibility, and I didn't mean just people who are able-bodied, who have a responsibility. I was just sort of speaking to myself here, about myself. But I feel like I have a responsibility to be as creative as possible in my thinking, to be as connected to the world around me as I can, to be as engaged, to be as loving, to be as alive, and also to do that in a way where I don't burn out, where I don't where I don't just repeat and recreate the old patriarchal, painful, colonized paradigms of service. And so that's why I'm doing this work, right? That's why I'm hosting this little moment here, right? This little blip in our week, in our month, in our year, to help hold the center for what it means to be alive and to be passionate. And I want to offer one way that I have really found a lot of sort of way of living that I've found helpful in finding more clarity, in finding my connection to my own creativity, in finding my connection like to myself and to my body and to the world around me, in a more organic, fluid way than just like someone trying to sort of like run in a little like gerbil wheel or whatever, little hamster wheel of how do I stay connected? What's going on in the world? Facebook, comments, right? Twitter and tweeting and my Instagram and back and forth and comments and liking and all of that. So that's a way to be engaged, but it's also like external to us. Even if we have really good connections, it's a lot of our engagement, the way that like our culture is built, the way that our communication technologies are built, like there's a lot of our engagement is there's some distance, right? And I just want to make sure that like when we're engaging, we're doing it from a place of like health and balance and connection to our own bodies and connection to our own lives, connection to like the earth beneath us, right? So this may sound a little woo-woo, and that's cool because I'm all about the woo, but it can also be very practical. So if you read my blog this morning, and email, if you get my emails, right? If you don't, you can sign up at danabalicki.com. But I introduced this idea, and where I went with it was this tool, non-tool that I've been alluding to, which is sensuality. So it's a little unexpected to maybe given my sort of intro here, like, wait, how is sensuality going to help me be more engaged and more aware and more vital and more alive? And it will. And I'm going to explain in just a moment. But let me tell you a little story about myself, if that would be helpful. Not that you can say yes or no. I mean, you can in the comments, but I'm going to go ahead until someone tells me to stop. So, I have chronic pain, and it's something that I've had for, that I've been experiencing or dealing with or living with for, since I was about 15 years old. And I've done a lot of work in my body. And I'm even on a new, actually even shouldn't be crossing my legs right now, really. I'm on a new healing path with a wonderful medicine woman, chiropractor out here in Joshua Tree, and I feel really grateful. And I've worked with a lot of different folks over the years, and I spent a lot of time certainly through college and then certainly through my work as an activist, being really sort of disengaged from my body. And so, when we're sort of out of body, when we're disengaged with our body, right? Our body is like, this is like the hub of our sensual experience, right? So I'm talking about, for those of you just joining, I'm talking about the big picture is like how to be more vital, alive, and engaged, in creative and connected, to ourselves and to the world around us. And the like specific sort of like inroad or tool or non-tool that I'm talking about is we can do that through sensual engagement. And I'll get back to my story in a second, but just a side note that like culturally, when you look up sensuality, like if you Google sensuality, like so much of what comes up is sexuality, sex, and it's like, well, God, I mean, there's so much more, like sex is just one part of sensuality. So we're working with the bigger concept of sensuality, sensual engagement, to understand how to use it because it's available to you, because here's my body, here's your body, right? Like our senses are firing all the time. So how to use what you already have access to. in order to, in order to be more alive, in order to really be connected, in order to be creative and aware and engaged, and to get like big visiony, right? What I've been calling big visiony with your life, right? In order to like zoom all the way out and look at like what's most important to you, like what are your values, right? So welcome to any of you who are just joining, and hope you caught that. So back to my quick story here before I get more deep into how to, like, why sensuality is the gateway, and how to use it and how to activate it in your life and ignite it every day. But I was talking about my chronic pain, which is something I really don't talk about a lot. In fact, I may never have talked about it publicly. So so I have chronic pain, and it's in my lower back, and it turns out that, I found out a couple of years ago that I have, I forget, I just learned another technical term for it, but I have an extra vertebrae, or an extra half a vertebrae. And which was really helpful to know, because I thought, I was doing something wrong, and that was why I was in so much pain for so long. I've had every kind of therapy there is. And I've had a lot of relief, and and anyone who's experiencing chronic pain and wants to ever talk more about it, like, I am so happy to talk about it. So a couple of years ago, I probably around the time maybe that I discovered I had this extra vertebrae, but not, they weren't absolutely connected. I was really getting more into my body, and instead of trying to like push down my sensation, right, of pain, I started listening to it. I started paying attention to it. I started like noticing the little nuances of it, and it awakened something in me, right? Totally unexpectedly, it awakened in me this ability to like really like hear the messages of my body in like all sorts of ways, right? So I started working deeply on my digestion and all sorts of other parts, and all of a sudden I would be like, oh, there's this other little thing in my shoulder, all these things that I had been ignoring, right? All these parts of me that had maybe been inconvenient, given that I was like a busy woman, I had shit to do, and so I was, I would just dismiss it and just like, oh, it'll get better at some point, right? So that, that awakening, that attunement, that like starting to pay attention to like what was happening in my body was a sensual experience. It was me actually having to pay attention to my senses. And it started to wake me up not only to what was happening in my body, but to what was happening around me. And what I realized is, this may sound like an obvious thing, but what I realized was that I hated being cold. And being cold was really like ruining my life. Like, I lived in New York. I had, I'd been there for 10 years, basically, like 9.5 years. And the threat or the thought of one more winter, like, I couldn't even wrap my mind around it. So because I started paying attention to senses in my body, sensations in my body, and feelings in my body, I started to notice like really what felt good and what felt bad, which maybe seems a little bit like a no-brainer. However, most of us don't pay that much attention to what's happening in our bodies, right? Like, I mean, even for those of us who maybe like have, eat gluten-free or dairy-free or soy-free and this and that, and like all these things that are great. We're culturally attuned to like putting our needs second a lot of times, to like prioritizing getting things done over our being. And so this aspect of sensual engagement and starting to pay attention to senses is part of like helping you break that cycle and coming back into yourself. And so once I noticed that I really hated being cold, and that it was really important, right? That it wasn't just like a thing to ignore, because I had been ignoring it for a long time. And then I realized that I needed to live somewhere where I would be warm, like most of the year. And I stopped judging myself for that. So I was like, I live in New York, the center of the universe. Why would I go anywhere else? And I realized that it wasn't right for me anymore. It wasn't warm enough. My ability to engage with nature wasn't where I wanted it to be. I mean, I took many trips upstate, and I mean, it wasn't that yeah, which part of the time it wasn't that. I just realized all of a sudden I became more attuned to my own sensations, my own senses, and like what was really working for me and what wasn't. And I started to release my grip on thinking that a certain way of living was what I had to do. So that, that whole story, just to like, and if anyone has questions, like I'm totally happy to respond to anything, but that little story there is just like a snippet of like what starting to what paying attention to my senses opened up for me. Now I live in desert and I have a beautiful home and I really love my life. And I love my life in New York. And then I realized it really wasn't the place for me anymore, and I stayed in that like limbo realm for a long time, and I know a lot of people who are doing that right now, and it's okay. And one of the ways out of it is to start listening to your body, right? Start listening, paying attention, right, to your senses. What's going on in your body? What is your body telling you? And then in the bigger realm of sensuality and sensual engagement, right, like when we're, whether it's a sensation in your body or whether it's like walking down the street and seeing a beautiful tree because it's springtime, and or noticing ants on the sidewalk, or like, having, just like feeling this is lemon water, right? It's like just feeling it, slowing down just a moment to like feel it in my mouth and the sourness on my tongue and feel it move down my throat. Right? Or like mindful eating, right? Mindfulness is a big part of this too. That when we engage sensually, we get present, right? Because like, when's the last time that you had like an amazing meal and you were just like, oh, you were eating it and you were just, it was delightful and just so good. And were you like mentally like, like writing a to-do list for like things you had to do at work, or, or your grocery list, or were you thinking about some other conversations? Like, you were probably just really in the moment. And when we're really in the moment, and we're in our bodies, like, and we're present, right? There's so much more available to us, right? When we're present. And in our presence, right? When we're not like in the past, right? Which is like when we have like regret and resentment, and we're not like catapulting ourselves into the future, right? Worry and anxiety, right? If you're doing any of those things on a regular basis, you're just volleying between like past and future, right? And you're missing yourself in the present, right? So the opportunity is to get present with sensual engagement, and it could just be as simple as like lotion on the face in the morning, or seeing something beautiful outside, or like reading a book, just noticing the smell of the pages, right? If you like that kind of thing, the way like your pen ink moves on the paper, right? It's why I like these little like, I don't like the big pens, I like the rolly ink pens because it's very sensual. Anyway, I have lots of little tips and tricks. So, or your oils, right? Like I've got my basket of oils here. And so however you do it, right? Big ways, small ways. What sensuality, sensually engaging in your life, in your body, in the world around you, creates the opportunity for you to get more present, for you to get focused, for you to get in the moment, for you to like understand and be with reality as it is. Right? Not how it was, not how it will be, but as it is. And all your power is here. Your power is not in the past. Your power is not in the future. Your power is here in the moment. Right? This is where you make change. You don't make change in the past. You don't make change in the future. You make change in the now, right? So last week, Magic Hour, we talked a lot about change and resisting to change. We've talked about mindfulness. Like all of these things interlock and, are all in the same fabric here of how to be alive, right? Of how to be vital, of how to create your life. And if you're someone who's feeling creatively blocked, yeah, even if it's like, how do I create the next step of my life, the next phase, or you're an artist or a writer or what have you, and you're feeling creatively blocked, like sensual engagement, and I do not mean TV, though, like there is some good TV on right now, and like watching Handmaid's Tale, oh, especially with Trump care, it's painful and scary. Anyway, so I mean, you know, I don't necessarily, like, even though there's some good TV and good movies on out there, that's not what I mean by sensual engagement, right? We're not just talking about like eyeball stimulation, right? We got to get away from the screens, like actually a little bit dulling. I could talk a lot more about that, but dulling to our senses and to our mind. So when I'm talking about sensual engagement, right? It's like it's more tactile. You know, whether it's like smelling and tasting and feeling and hearing. And you know, ideally, like you're engaging a few senses at once when you have a sensual experience. So it gives you the opportunity, as I was saying, one, to be more present, to be more connected, and to be more creative, right? Because you're getting turned on. When you are sensually engaged, you are turned on. You are lit up like a little Christmas tree, and when you're lit up and when you're engaged and all your synapses start firing and you're getting more alive, what happens is you start thinking about, oh, I want more of this in my life. This is important. I like this. Right? Like, how do I make more room for this? How do I make more room for delicious meals? How do I make more room for delicious meals with friends? How do I make more room to like be out in nature? How do I make more room to just like rub this coconut oil on my body after my shower? Right? Like, how do I make more time for me? So what sensuality is like a gateway for your values. Does that make sense? If anyone's not following me and you're like, I don't understand, please, like, you know, I'm Instagram live, Facebook live, whatever. I'm watching both monitors. I also have to plug my computer in here. Give me a sec, because we're going to run low on batteries. There we go. So if you have any questions, by all means. So what I was, you know, this getting your synapses firing, getting everything going allows you to create space to see what it is you really want and what's most important to you. So sensuality as a gateway for your values, right? To live your values, to design your life around your values. Yeah, I'm telling you, like sensuality like gets a really like, not like a bad rap, but just like a not as good as it could be rap, you know? It's like all about like, I think people think about like, you know, taking a bubble bath or sex, which, I mean, I love both of those things very much. And you don't have to have a bubble bath or have sex to be sensually engaged, right? So the good news for those of us, you know, I didn't have in my apartment in New York for years. Did have sex though. Anyway, you know what I'm saying. So this, starting to design your life around your values, right, and starting to understand, like, how do I make more room for these engaging experiences to feel more as alive as possible, you know, to be connected to myself, to others, to nature, to the world around me, right? This is sensual engagement. This is actually, I mean, if we're really gonna, like, talk plainly about it, this is your sexuality. Sexuality is not just the act of sex, which is, like, what our culture, in its limitations, has you know, defined for us as sex, the act of sex. What sexuality really is your self-expression, right? The expression of who you are in the world. Yes, I love this. On Instagram, we got a comment that says, I haven't had sex in years, but I have a very sensual life. Perfect. Exactly. Right? So what we have here is the designing your life around your values, right? That comes through sensual engagement, right? That's actually, you know, when we really dig in on it, is your sexuality, is the expression of yourself in the world, right? And so the way that we access how you express yourself in the world, which is absolutely what the you know, we introduced today, Magic Hour as absolutely what the times are calling for, right? Engagement. We have to be alive. We have to be our most vital. We have to be our most aware and our most connected. And this isn't about doing more. This is about your being, right? So our sexuality is our expression of who we are, and we can get that through sensual experiences, which are available to us all day, every single day. So, if anyone wants to like tune in and you know, let me know, you know, how you sensually engage, right? Because maybe some people that are watching this either now or later are like, oh, what does that mean? Like, how do I sensually engage? I live in a, you know, whatever, busy city in a small apartment and what have you, and you know, I drive to work and then I go to work and I do my thing. So if anyone has anything that they want to chime in, I'll read it as I see them pop up. But you know, I showed you some of the ways that I engage, right? I've got like, you know, oils that I use every day. And like, you know, you want to be sensitive to oils because it's not like you want to like load up and then like go to work and like be in public places, because like people might be sensitive. I'm sort of sensitive, so I have to use everything in sort of small doses. I mean, do you, but I'm just saying. You know, or, you know, I live out in the desert, so obviously I have a little bit more access to nature than probably a lot of folks do in general. But when I lived in New York, I had my little, you know, I had a fire escape garden that I like tended to on the regular. And I had, you know, then I had a little backyard, but I had a pot garden, and like, that's really satisfying, getting your hands in the dirt, smelling the earth, you know, either sprouting a plant or buying a plant and tending to it, watching it, listening to it, like paying attention to it. Sometimes it's easier, right? I know a lot of gardeners out there, and you know, maybe even some who are here with us, and you know, if there's any tips they want to offer or any insights, you know, would love to have them. And what I noticed too was that, like, as I tended to you know, these little plants more and more, it also required me to, you know, slow down, right? Because when I just wasn't paying attention, maybe just throwing a little water on it, they didn't do very well, right? I had to like pay attention, and like maybe certain times, you know, it was like, oh, they didn't like that much sun, or you know, certain times of the year I would move them because maybe they wanted another spot. Like, you start to just be more attentive, you start to slow down, right? So you start to slow down, you start to pay more attention, right? You can do it with your body. Like I, you know, gave my little story before, sort of publicly for the first time, talking about my own chronic pain and how I started listening to my body, and, you know, it allowed pain to become a teacher. So what do we got here? Nice. Let's see, we've got eating what I grow, drinking a tea of fresh herbs. I love me some fresh mint tea. Let's see, love song, little plants, natives, weeds, life. Oh, life coming up through the sidewalk. Yes, right? So it's available at any point. You live in a big city, like little weeds just fighting, right? Like, let's take lessons from the weeds. Right? Persevere. Let's see, I like seeing the elegance of online building, a feature on a piece of technology, looking for the sensuality in each person, in their eyes and their hands, the way they put themselves together. Beautiful, right? I love that too. I loved that about living in New York, and one of my favorite weird places was the subway, even though like I could really hate my commute sometimes, especially like certain times when you're just like packed up against. But even when I was pressed up against people, it was like, you know, not that everything always smelled amazing, but you know, and usually sensual engagement is like somewhat pleasing, is what you're going for. But I found a lot of pleasure in just like noticing people's smells and like watching their hands grip the pole together, and like maybe sometimes how people's hands who didn't know each other would just touch and they'd just let them be there for a moment, or you know, watching women put makeup on the subway. Like, I always thought that was fascinating. I wasn't a big fan of people eating really stinky food on the subway. Again, sensuality, like sometimes we're going for a little more pleasurable. What do we got? It's possible to see it in everything if you're willing to look. Yes. Ooh, writing love and gratitude letters to friends that you've not stayed in touch with for a while. That's beautiful. And I would suggest, it's like when you're writing the love and gratitude letters, like my friend Heather Box of the Million Person Project did these little, they're all about telling stories. And so, and love. And so they did these little letter writing kits where you got actual paper and pen and wrote a paper postcards, right? Like how beautiful is that? Or typing is okay too, right? I mean, like that's, that can absolutely be a form of sensual engagement. And, as I was saying before, that there's a lot of ways, just like, it's like touching the paper, right? Touching watching the ink move on the paper from your pen, or using a pencil. I have friends who only use pencils, whatever, right? Like, it's limitless, right? The possibility is infinite. And what I want you all to know, and I hadn't mentioned this yet, which is silly, but here we go, is that I made a sensuality meditation for you. So a little guided exercise and a meditation. And if you go to danabalicki.com/sensuality, it is there for you. So danabalicki.com/sensuality, and it's about 20 minutes, and it's a little guided exercise and guided visualization. And its aim is to help you get in touch with your sensual nature, right? It's perfect weekend homework. You'll enjoy it. I maybe assume you'll enjoy it, but I'm guessing you might, because it's a sweet little visualization, and it's a beautiful weekend. It's spring. Everything is out. People are out. I'm sure everyone's basically, I think it's raining in New York today, but I'm hoping y'all are going to get a little more sun. But still, sensual engagement in the rain, right? Like, wherever you need to find it. Wherever you need to make it, right? Even if it's just in, like, brushing your hair, like Marsha Brady, like 100 brushes. Anyway, or brushing your teeth, or touching your face, splashing a little water on in the morning. Just take every moment that you can manage, that you can remember, to just slow down and sensually engage, right? To get more present, to get more connected to your body, to get more connected to the world around you, to get more connected to the people in your life. To get more connected with your values, what's most important to you. It's available to you. It's simple. It's something that you could do all day, every day. Literally stop and smell the roses, right? I hope I didn't sound too much like a fortune cookie today. I'm glad that the technology worked. Yay! And that I didn't have to do this in my car like last time. Last moments for any questions or comments before we wrap today. Again, if you want to do a sensuality exercise, guided exercise and meditation, visualization, go to danabalicki.com/sensuality. You can also just go to danabalicki.com, and there's a really cool, longer training and meditation I did around, what I call slow the F down, right? Slowing down, mindfulness. It's a really good one. So you can just get that on my website. I'm here every Friday at 11 a.m. Pacific, 2 p.m. Eastern. I'm always happy to take questions. I'm available always at danabalicki.com. That's my email. No one else gets it but me. And if you have any special requests for Magic Hour, I had a couple requests last week for a whole one around procrastination, so I'm working on that. And and just a last shout out to the Tiny Victories newsletter. It's at piecesloud.org. So, we're in these times where we need to, as I've said a million times today, be as alive and vital as possible, and positive, right? And that's not fake positivity, right? That's not like rah-rah, even though inside I feel bad, right? It's about, positive, like a deep positivity, right? To trust that we're all here together and that we belong to each other. Ooh, I just got a request for to talk about grief. Yes, I love a good conversation around grief. Absolutely. And oh, I think my phone here is dying, so I'm going to sign off on Instagram, or I'm going to plug you in first, maybe. Yeah, so a little bit of technology here. So we've got some more stuff coming in. Sorry, guys. Yes. Sexuality. Yes. Celia, let's talk more about that. All right, y'all. Sexuality around assault. Yeah. Absolutely. So keep them coming in if you have any more requests or suggestions for, for coming up, for magic hours, any topics. Email me, Dana at danabalicki.com. I'm happy to receive it and be in conversation with you. And I really appreciate y'all tuning in. And any questions you may have watching this, and you can leave them at least in Facebook, because once I close the Instagram out, it's gone. But in Facebook, you can leave comments or any questions there too. So again, thank you so much, and I'm really grateful for you. And have a beautiful weekend, and find just your little moments of sensuality, sensual engagement, right? Just being with yourself, for the plants around you, the trees, the sky, the air, the rain, the sun. It's all there for you. Okay. Goodbye, Instagram. Thank you. And now bye, Facebook Live. I'm just reading some of the comments here. We got after the first magic hour, someone, Alessandra here, started a ritual to engage with her body by doing an abhyanga sunabaya, like a self-massage with oil, right? Beautiful. I love that. So good. Someone else wrote, when I was little, my grandma always used to open a window when it rained so we could listen to it, and I do that now. I love that. When I used to go to the doctor's office, my dad would tap on his wallet and make a rain sound. And it's like so calming to me now still. Thank you for that. Thank you, everyone. Have a beautiful day. Bye. Until next time, next week, Friday at 11.